Before watching the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel and enable bell notification to never miss an update from us.
Hello and good morning, all of you. This is Ashima, and in this segment of Daily Current Affairs, we'll be talking about daily news events. And those are going to be a discussion of the news events, that being that we'll be talking about in descriptive format. It is not much of the objective format, so I'll be giving you an idea about the form of questions that can be framed, but it's not question involving. For those who want to practice the questions as well, you can take everyday quiz on the app, that is Entry app, which is free and it has about 10 to 15 questions every day updated for your practice purpose. And apart from that, we have a weekend, or you can say a weekly quiz, which happens live on Saturdays. So you can join us there on Saturday on the channel, a weekly quiz at around 12:15 we have that. So that will help you recap all the major news events of the week, right? So with that, we'll be beginning up with our segment of today. The first news event we are going to talk about is Ladakh's Tsokar Wetland Complex. Now, why has this come to news, or what is the news event about? First of all, it is India's 42nd Ramsar site and second Ramsar site of Ladakh, that is Tsokar Wetland Complex. So we'll be requiring a few information regarding this, but before that, since we have said it's the second Ramsar site, so which other Ramsar site is there from Ladakh? That is Somoriri. So Moriri is the other Ramsar site of Ladakh, which became Ramsar site in 2002. That is a brackish water lake, right? And this one, if we talk about this Tsokar, so there are two components of this water body, as we have said, it's a complex. So a complex involves multiples. Over here, there are two main water bodies that is Startsapuk Tso and Tsokar. Now, Startsapuk Tso is a freshwater lake, whereas Tsokar is a hypersaline lake. And Tso Moriri, which we had talked about as the other side, that is a brackish water lake. Right, so brackish water lake is Somoriri. Sarpak So is a freshwater lake. Tsokar is a hypersaline lake. Both of them are a part of Tsokar complex. Right now, this is a high altitude wetland complex, because in Ladakh region, most of the complexes are going to be of higher altitude. Right. Then over here, what other information is required, that these are the most important breeding areas for black-necked cranes in India, right? So these sites are important for black-necked cranes in India, and it is an important bird area. Now, what exactly is an important bird area? As per BirdLife International, which identifies any area as an important bird area, the criteria is that it should have a conservation of bird population as per BirdLife International, right? All around the world, if we talk about, there are about 12,000 important bird life, or you can say bird areas, important bird areas worldwide. So we won't have to remember all of them. The important categorization is, first of all, who does it, that is BirdLife International, and second of all, how many total are there, about 12,000 in total, and how many categories they are being classified into. So there are 4 categories of it, being A1, A2, A3 and A4. Right, depending on whether it includes threatened species or restricted species or congregations. Right, so over here, what is important, first of all, which is how many Ramsar sites are there in India in total, that is 42 Ramsar sites, Ladakh's being the 42nd one. Then how many Ramsar sites are there in India? In Ladakh, there are 2 Ramsar sites in Ladakh, one being Somoriri of 2002 and the other one being Tsokar complex. Tsokar complex has 2 main water bodies. So which one is freshwater, which was hypersaline? That is important. And why are these sites or this complex as a whole important? That is because of black-necked cranes, right? Next, we have something about European Union. Now, European Union Bank was quite in news recently because it had given a huge amount investment it had done in the development of Kanpur Metro. But now what has come up to news is that it has banned the export of plastic waste to poor countries. right? So there have been certain changes that have been done by European Union in the laws, as we can say. And that what changes have been done is, first of all, unsorted plastic will not be sent off to poor countries. So, as per the amendment has been on 2006 Waste Shipment Regulation. 2006 Waste Shipment Regulation has been amended, and according to that, new rules will allow export of plastic waste only to countries that want to recycle that plastic waste. Right? So it's not going to be sent off to just dispose them. Either the country wants to recycle, or it's a clean, non-hazardous waste, then it can be given to any non-OECD country. Now, what is an OECD country? OECD is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is headquartered in France, in Paris. So OECD is headquartered in Paris, in France, and it stands for Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. And currently, there are about 37 countries which are a part of it. So, out of these 37 countries that are a part of it, the most recent one being Colombia. So, out of you can say, excluding these 37 countries, any country can be selected for sending out the waste which is clean and non-hazardous. That is, it has to be sorted. Non-sorted waste cannot be given off to poor countries. And second of all those hazardous ones, or ones which will require recycling or other purpose, only those who are willing to recycle those, only those countries will receive that. Right? Now, these rules have been made in line with 1989 Basel Convention. Now, why was this Basel Convention important? Basel Convention is the control of transboundary movement of all the hazardous waste and disposal. Right? And this whole convention of 1989, and this convention, the signatures were done for movement of hazardous waste. So the regulations which have to be made, they have to be made in such a way that the hazardous waste is either recycled or reduced, or something or the other happens, so that other countries are not affected because of, you can say, high production of other developed countries. Right now, as of 2018, about 186 countries have signed this, including European Union, and that being it, they have to comply with it. India is also a part of Basel Convention, but it has not ratified it. Similarly, United States has not ratified it. Haiti has not ratified it. Right. So, Basel Convention is important. That is of which year it is, and is India part of it? And then what does it involve? That is movement of hazardous waste, as we say, right? Or treatment of hazardous waste. Then the new regulations and about OECD is also important. These are a few things that you need to know about it. Then Assam Official Language Amendment Bill has finally been passed in the state. So what are the changes that have been made? First of all, Bodo has been made as official language of the state. So now Assam has three official languages: Assamese, Bengali, and Bodo. There are three official languages of Assam. That is important. Now, why was this required, or why was it done? So it was done in accordance to the Bodo Peace Accord. Now, where was it signed, or between whom it was signed? This was signed between Government of India, that is the central government, Assam government, that is the state government, four Bodo rebel groups, and two Bodo organizations. So these six, you can say, Bodo organization and groups, Assam government and central government, they had signed a Bodo Peace Accord, and according to that, certain changes have been introduced. One of them being making Bodo an official language, right? Now, when all of this is coming up, Assamese language movement has come up. In 1960, Assam Official Language Act was passed, according to which Assamese had become official language of the state. So all of those changes were occurring in. So is there any national language of India? No, there is no national language of India. Now here you'll have to have a look at the language of the question, what is coming up. There are two. One is a national language, one is an official language. We talk about national language, there is no national language. But according to Article 343, we have official language of the Union, that being Hindi in Devanagari script. right? The businesses in Indian Parliament, they can be done either in Hindi or English, but English is not an official language anymore. It was till 1975. For initial 15 years, it was said that will be an official language, but after that, it's going to be Hindi in Devanagari script only. That being it, there are 22 regional languages also, but in that also Hindi is there, English is not there. So neither is English an official language nor a scheduled language. It's simply a language which helps in communication. It was an official language for initial 15 years being it, but later on it was moved away. That is now only Hindi in Devanagari script according to Article 343. This article is very important as of now, right? All right. Apart from this, have there been any other approvals that have been given? So, there has been approval for National Health Mission employees for to 60 years service to all the National Health Mission employees. Then Bodo Kachari Autonomous Council is going to be set up according to Bodo Accord, which was signed in the initial of the year, that is in the beginning of the year 2020, being January 2020. Right, 91 crores loan has been passed from NABARD for rural infrastructure development also, right? So these are a few changes that have been signed along with this language change, which is the most important one. Then we have State of Mediterranean and Black Sea Fisheries 2020. Now, what do we have over here? First of all, who has released this report? It has been released by FAO, or Food and Agriculture Organization. Right now, what are the updates regarding it? According to this report, which was for 2018, it involves 2018. So, according to this report, overfishing has comparatively decreased in Mediterranean and Black Sea, in ecosystem of Mediterranean and Black Sea, but it is still going on, right? It is just reduction has been seen for the first time. Number of stocks which are subject to overfishing, they have decreased comparatively for the first time in decades, if we can say. Now, overfishing comes under Sustainable Development Goal 14, right? Basically, to conserve and sustainably use oceans, maritime resources, and seas. So, for fulfilling the Sustainable Development Goal 14, ministers of Mediterranean and ministers of Black Sea region, both of them had signed Medfish Forever and Sofia Declaration. Medfish Forever was signed in 2017 and Sofia Declaration was signed in 2018, right? And both of them have been signed to fulfill the Sustainable Development Goal 14, which is for sustainable use of ocean, marine resources, and seas. Right? So this report being important, over here it is important to release it. Which sustainable goal, development goal is it? Which areas have been covered under this report, and what are the measures that have been taken? That being Medfish Forever and Sofia Declaration, both of them. Then we have Jal Shakti Abhiyan 2. Now something about this has come to news. What is it? First of all, Catch the Rain Awareness Generation campaign, which we talked about yesterday in one-liners. That is the reason why it is in news. This was launched by National Water Mission, but was launched under Jal Shakti Abhiyan 2. Now, which ministries have been involved? So that is Jal Shakti Ministry, Youth Affairs and Sports, and Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan as well. Purpose, as the name says, conservation and rainwater harvesting. Water conservation, rainwater harvesting. These are the two primary purpose of this whole campaign. Right, so basically creating rainwater harvesting structures, and those should be compatible to subsoil strata so that rainwater can be stored as well. Right, all of these are going to be there. Now, Jal Shakti Abhiyan, initially, as we are seeing that it's a second phase. So there was a first phase also of it. First phase was in 2019 between July and September. That is the rainfall seasons. Now phase 2 is for the retreating monsoon. Phase 2 being retreating monsoon, that being the states of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Puducherry. These are the areas where retreating monsoon is seen around this time. And that is when this campaign has been launched. And we have a tagline as well. So tagline of this campaign is Catch the Rain Where It Falls When It Falls. Then Air Quality Commission for NCR or National Capital Region. Now what about it? First of all, it has directed all the industries in National Capital Region or NCR region to switch over to piped natural gas. Right now, this commission, if we talk about, has 20 members and it was formed by Ministry of Environment. Over here, the primary things are already in news. That being, first of all, who created it? It was created by Ministry of Environment. And second of all, the question involves is how many members are there? There are 20 members of it. Right, so it has set out a few directions. So if we talk about the directions, it is basically for identifying all of those industries which are using unapproved fuels. So for that purpose, they have decided that piped fuel should be used. Deadline for switching over is January 2021. So by the end of January 2021, all the industries in NCR region have to move to piped natural gas so that all of them can receive approved standards of it. Right now, Delhi Pollution Control Committee has been directed to identify and inspect all those industries who are using these kind of unapproved fuels and that they comply to the guidelines that have been released recently. Who is going to head them? DPCC, for obvious reason, Delhi Pollution Control Committee, and GAIL or Gas Authority of India Limited. Both of them are going to assist in compliance to what the guidelines have been set forth. Right. Next, a few one-liners. First of all, in DTH, 100% FDI has been approved. DTH being direct to home broadcasting services. So over here, 100% FDI has been approved, and the license period has been increased to 20 years. Earlier, it was 10 years. From 10 years, it has been increased to 20 years. License fees has also been revised. So right now there was 8% of the adjusted gross revenue or AGR. Currently it was 8% of AGR, adjusted gross revenue, and that has been increased to 10% now. Right, DTH service providers can invest more, you can say, coverage, which will lead to higher growth. So this has been increased also, and license fee has to be paid in quarterly basis now. Right, earlier it was annual basis, now it is going to be quarterly basis, and a certain new other guidelines have also been released. Next being Vidyanika International Science Literature Festival has been launched. So the important thing is that on whose birth anniversary is it celebrated? It is on Srinivasa Ramanujan. That being on 23rd of December, it was launched. Then 8 Khelo India Center of Excellence have also been inaugurated by the Sports Minister Kiren Rijiju. Where have they been launched? That being Arunachal, Manipur, Mizoram, the 3 northeastern states, then 1 Nagaland, that being 4 northeastern states, and then Telangana, Kerala, Odisha, and Karnataka. Then we have National Consumer Rights Day, which is celebrated on 24th of December. The theme of National Consumer Rights Day was the sustainable consumer. Now, why do we celebrate this on 24th of December itself? The reason is that on this date, the Consumer Protection Act was enacted in 1986, and since then it is being celebrated. So the celebration happens because of the act being passed, right? All right. Then, if we talk about this act, which was enacted in 1986, there are 6 rights which have been granted to consumers under this act. So we'll go through them one by one. Right of choice. Right of choice being that consumers shall have choices available. They can choose whatever product they want or whichever company they want to purchase of. Then is right of redressal. Right of redressal being that any unfair trade practices there or any exploitation is witnessed, then the redressal can be sought out. Right, and that has to be simple and speedy as well. So so for that purpose, district, state, and central level redressal forums had been set up. Right, then we have the right of hearing. That is, right of hearing means that consumers should be heard and they should be given the services that they are promised that they will be receiving. So in the interest of the consumers, the services should be there and as per the appropriate terms as well. Then the next right being right of education. Right of education means that the information on education should be granted to right of Information and education should be granted towards all the information that is available about the quality, about the quantity, about the purity of the product, right? And to learn about the competitive prices as well. The right to information is about prices, and right to education is about all the quality and quantity of the product. That is, you can see what ingredients are there, what kind of products or chemicals have been used in the process, and all of those. These things are mentioned. Where has it been manufactured? What is the expiry date? What was the manufacturing date? Address of the industry where it has been manufactured. All of these are right of education. And then we have right of protection. Right of protection is a right to be protected against any marketing of goods and services which can be hazardous to life and hazardous to property. Right? So these are the 6 rights which were granted under the Consumer Protection Act, and this was a new amendment of Consumer Protection Act was had come to force in around July August time. 2020. Therefore, it is very, very important. Certain changes were made. So those amendments that have been done, they are very, very important for the part. Right? Then Central Consumer Protection Authority was also established under the 2019 amendment, which came to force in 2020. So that is again very important to study about for current affairs section for all the examinations coming up. Then we have Government of India, which has linked 500 million US dollars loan pact with World Bank, and that is to develop green national highway corridors in the country. Where are these green national highway corridors going to be constructed? They will be in Himachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, and UP. In these areas, green corridors are going to be developed, which will connect markets and services, and better transportation services are going to be implemented over here. Right? So with this, we'll be winding up the segment. Thank you so much, and it has been a wonderful segment, and I hope this has been helpful to all of you in understanding of the recent